With KJ Martin set to be an LA Clipper, it is time to find out even more about the son of a former Clipper. And joining me today will be a guy who's covered him for 3 years, the host of Locked On Rockets, Jackson Gatlin, going to be getting into everything Kenyon Martin Jr. on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. My name is Darian Vaziri. I'm your host, been a Clipper fan for going on 19 years, born and raised in LA. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and Locked On Clippers, free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube, where I want you to tell me anything and everything that you know about Kenyon Martin Jr.'s game. And to do that in more depth, we have Jackson Gatlin, the host of Locked On Rockets, making his Locked On Clippers debut, at least with me as the host. Jackson, you usually have me on Locked On NBA, but now welcome to our turf, Locked On Clippers.
I'm excited to be here, man. Excited to talk a little KJ Martin with you. Hopefully educate the audience a little bit about what type of player they are getting themselves into. Now, I will say I've been on Locked On Clippers before. We've done crossovers back in the day, ages ago, back when the Rockets were relevant and like crossovers mattered, because it was like, like two potential playoff teams previewing each other. That hasn't happened for a few years though with this Rockets team.
Yeah, but you guys are definitely going to be more exciting next season with all the young players, the young talent. And you lost a little bit of that young talent in Kenyon Martin Jr. So I first just want to hear your reaction to the news that he would no longer be a Houston Rocket. Were you disappointed? Was it not a big deal given all the other guys you have? And what kind of player are we getting, and how excited, should Clipper fans be for this guy?
It was a little disappointing because of the four young players that the Rockets lost with Ty Washington, Usman Garuba, Josh Christopher, and KJ Martin. KJ was the oldest of that group of guys, the guy who would kind of showcase the most potential. I don't know if KJ isn't this guy who has this secret, hidden star caliber potential. You're not getting some diamond in the rough who's going to turn into, an upper echelon type NBA player, but he does what he does incredibly well. And I think the best thing that KJ does is he knows his role on a basketball court. Like, he knows exactly the things that he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to do them, impact the game, be a good energy guy, whether he's in the starting lineup or coming off the bench, high rebound kind of guy. Can be impactful on both ends of the court in a variety of different ways, and has really kind of grown his game over the last 3 years from where he came into the NBA as a rookie and over those first 3 years of his career with the Rockets. So I was a little disappointed to see him go, but you kind of saw the writing on the wall. They wanted to bring in Dillon Brooks. They have Jabari Smith Jr. They have Tari Eason. They just drafted Cam Whitmore. There's only so many wing minutes to go around, and somebody was going to get the squeeze, and it just so happened to be KJ Martin, unfortunately.
So the first question that I have laid out here in the first segment is he a 3 or a 4? Now, I know in today's NBA, it's positionless basketball, and you have, wing, big, and guard. He's listed at 6'6", 215, but for whatever reason, when we played against you guys this season, it felt like he was bigger. Maybe it's just because Marcus Morris, Nico Batum just felt so ancient at that 4 spot for us that it made Kenyon Martin Jr. look that much bigger. But he looks a little taller than 6'6" in person, at least from a distance from where I saw him. Maybe it's the high-flying ability. But where would you put him? Would you think he can be a guy that can be the second tallest guy in a lineup for the Clippers? Or is he more of a 3? Because he only shot 31% from 3 or 32% from 3 last season. So I'm concerned if as a 3 in the lineup, he would be a good floor spacer. He would be a threat offensively. What do you think?
He's definitely he can play both, right? You can play him at the 3 or the 4. Part of some of his game, he's been able to round out a little bit his ability to put the ball on the floor, be it in transition or even attacking off closeouts in the half court when the defense maybe makes the mistake of closing out on him, because as you pointed out, right, he's not the best 3-point shooter. So that is kind of a tactical error if you close out hard on KJ Martin. He's the kind of guy you want to, take those 3-pointers. You don't want to have him, with a breakaway drive towards the rim, because that's his bread and butter, because you give him 2 steps towards the rim and he's already in the air and he's going to yam it, or he's got a really nice soft touch around the rim. I think he can play the 4 in short stints. He's not somebody you want as your full-time four. He's not somebody you want giving a bulk of minutes at the four, but if you want to run small a little bit, he definitely, especially defensively, he plays bigger than he is. Like,
Okay.
he can match up against some bigger players and kind of hold his own. He's got a really strong body for being, he is about 6'6", 6'7", maybe in sneakers. So he's not, massive. And he's not this like, brute, but he plays bigger. His post defense is actually better than his perimeter defense. Unfortunately, that's another kind of knock on him is, like, there are times when he can lock in a little bit one-on-one defensively, but some of it, like his lateral quickness and maybe just sometimes I think kind of just the awareness on defense is where it kills him, is maybe his rotations are like a half second too slow, that kind of thing. But he is a guy that you can plug in at the 3 or the 4. Again, positionless NBA. He's basically a wing player. And aside from the shooting, there's not really a lot that you lose out of him, whether you're running him at the 3 or at the 4. I think it's more about the other players you want to plug in around him. But I will say that whether you plug him at the 3 or the 4, one of the best skills that he's going to bring to the table is his screening ability. He is a fantastic screen setter for a guy his size.
Okay, that's great to hear. I think the way you're describing him is he sounds like a guy that would play the 4 for the Clippers, just because you say a guy that can set screens, that isn't the best shooter in the world, but if he gets around the basket, he's deadly. And also guarding bigger guys and not guarding the perimeter as much. I can see him being a guy that's out there alongside like a Mason Plumlee or an Ivica Zubac, and then you have 3 more skilled kind of perimeter-based guys around him. So I think even though he's a little undersized for that 4 spot, because of his athletic ability, I think, and today's NBA, I think he'll be able to get away with it there. So we'll look forward to seeing what position or where he's put this season for the Clippers. But as you mentioned, it also depends on what we want to do with other guys like Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington. There is a consolidation trade coming from the Clippers very soon. But coming up, the big thing the Clippers needed is some more defense in the front court. Coming up, going to be talking about KJ Martin on the defensive end in a bit. You ever feeling down and in a tight spot? I know I've been in a tight spot. And whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so let's talk about KJ Martin on the defensive end. Defense is something that I always say you really got to watch these guys on a nightly basis, because there's not really any stats to me that fully can capture what a player does defensively, because a lot of the stats are based off who they're sharing the court with. So, you just talked about he's a better post defender, interior defender than maybe a perimeter defender. But just how good of a defender can Kenyon Martin Jr. be, or is he, I should say, because we had Marcus Morris at that spot to start, and it was liability city sometimes. But then we have Nico Batum, who declined, but he's still pretty good. Definitely, probably, I would assume, better than Martin laterally. But give me some insight on KJ Martin on the defensive end.
So I think KJ is a guy who definitely suffered from just the, whatever you want to call it, the rot of losing in Houston, right? The other, young players around him, the lack of structure, all that. He's a guy who has all the physical tools to actually be a problem on the defensive side of the court. And you've seen flashes of it. You've seen potential from him on that side of the court. I do think his biggest weakness is at times, again, defensive awareness, especially when he's on the perimeter. I do think, especially when he's off ball, he can get caught a little bit, ball watching, not paying attention, whatever. He does recover really well because he's got, just that abundance of natural athleticism. So even if at times he'll get beat either, guarding one-on-one on the perimeter and a guy beats him on a drive, gets that first step, whatever, he's a guy that can recover, get back into the play, and still maybe even contest or block a shot coming from behind because he's got such insane hops, the leaping ability, all that. And that does kind of lend itself to the point that I made in segment one with him playing a little bit bigger than you would expect for a guy that size, and why he can kind of play up in that 4 position, both from a rebounding perspective and then also just from like being able to kind of, I don't know if you ever want to like rely on him being your primary like rim deterrent, but if you're playing him at the 4, more than likely he's going to be able to maybe get away with cheating off of his man, depending on, who he's matched up against, and kind of staying a little bit closer towards the interior on the defensive side, kind of being that weak side help presence who can rotate over and maybe stop a drive or contest at the rim. And that's something that he wasn't really afforded the opportunity to do a lot of this past season with the Rockets, because they actually stopped playing him at the 4 like they did in previous years. Basically, KJ's first like 2 years with the Rockets, he was exclusively a 4. And then this past year, he kind of transitioned more into that 3 role as he got more confident and capable with his ball handling ability and being able to put the ball on the deck, both in transition and in the half court. And then from the defensive side, though, that kind of took away some of what you got to see him do with those high flying, insane, like highlight reel blocks that he had. His rookie year, he had like blocks on like every 7-footer in the league, because he was playing so close to the interior and playing off of guys like Christian Wood and Kelly Olynyk and other guys like that, that it afforded him the opportunity to kind of cheat over and be that kind of rim deterrent. So that's something that you're getting out of him, at least defensively, if you run him at the 4 instead of on the wing.
Okay, those are some good things to hear, because the one thing I'm really looking for is in a hypothetical situation where teams drag Ivica Zubac or Mason Plumlee away from the basket, needing someone that can rotate at the rim and just be a presence above the rim for some secondary help, kind of similarly to how Aaron Gordon does with the Denver Nuggets.
It's actually a great comp. It's like KJ, I think, does. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Daria.
It's good. We need more.
I know. I love the Aaron Gordon comp. That was always the guy that I kind of envisioned KJ might be able to be one day, kind of that Swiss Army knife where he's never going to be your primary or secondary or even tertiary option offensively, right? But Aaron Gordon is another guy who, when he finally got to the Nuggets and was able to just kind of settle into the things that he can do really, really well on the floor, using his size, his athleticism, all of that, kind of being that Swiss Army knife for them, whether it's, okay, you need to focus on rebounding tonight, or, hey, you're going to check the toughest defensive assignment, or, hey, we really need you to take advantage of mismatches on the other end because they're going to try to guard you with a smaller player. And so we're going to post you up, or we're going to run back screens and get you rolling hard to the rim. All those little things that you see Aaron Gordon do and that you saw him do on his way to a title with the Nuggets, those are things that KJ Martin is absolutely capable of.
That sounds good. My last question before we move on is, do you think, and I don't think this is going to be the case, but the Clippers really have talked about this, or I don't know about if the Clippers have talked about it, but fans have really talked about this 4 spot and the weakness and the fact that we needed to get younger, more athletic. So that's clearly what the front office went for with this move. You don't expect, and you wouldn't think that KJ Martin shouldn't be our starter, do you? That's not what we should expect. Because it seems like we've had this discussion about, right, with Kawhi Leonard playing the 4 or not. I personally think Kawhi Leonard should, Paul George at the 3, and then we start Terrence Mann, because Terrence Mann just seems like, you talk about a guy that can do a little bit of everything. For us, that's Terrence Mann, and it's a huge thing in Clipper land that he doesn't get enough minutes. So if we want to downsize, and Ty Lue likes to go small, I think Kawhi Leonard will start at the 4, but there seems to be this general consensus that Kawhi will not want to do that, or that Ty Lue won't want to play him there. So if we do start a 4, I mean, I would think KJ Martin might be considered, because Nico Batum, Marcus Morris are old, and Robert Covington was just kind of out of favor last season. Should we expect Kenyon Martin Jr. to be any chance of being a starter, or most likely a bench player?
I think he's a guy that can absolutely be a starter. I think there's certain players in the NBA, right, that maybe they struggle when their roles shift, right? Whether, maybe they're used to being a starter and they start coming off the bench and they're not able to really get into their rhythm the right way, or coming off the bench kind of throws them off, and then vice versa, right?
That was Terrence Mann last season. Sorry to cut you off on that.
So there you go, right? KJ is a guy that for the better part of the last 2 years in Houston, especially this past season, he was the swing player for the Rockets, basically. So if a guy was out of the lineup or whatever, like, KJ was the guy that got the nod from being on the bench to then being plugged into the starting lineup. So he would start for a few games, then he'd be back to the bench for a couple weeks, and he'd start a few games. And then eventually, when Eric Gordon found himself a Clipper again for his second stint with the Clippers, Eric Gordon took over, or sorry, I apologize. KJ Martin took over that starting 3 spot, which like Rockets fans have been begging for so long, because the production is always there. KJ is a guy that will get insane numbers, and he'll do it in like the weirdest, like most quiet way. Like he just gets his buckets off of easy, like offensive putbacks, or like just simple rolls to the rim where he's just left wide open, because he's like the guy that you maybe lose track of offensively, because you're so, if you're so worried about shutting down Kawhi and PG and, other offensive options, you're going to kind of lose track of KJ Martin, right? He's a guy that has that insanely quick second bounce. He'll get you some just hustle points, 2-3 buckets a game from getting an offensive rebound and going back up with it, that kind of thing. So I do think there's absolutely a world where he could be in play to be a starter. And the one thing that I would say that kind of the added benefit that would give you is it allows you to have, I guess, 4 guys, 1 through 4, right, that are all kind of switchable, interchangeable defensively, that kind of thing, depending on how you want to, or depending on how Tyler would want to deploy Zubats, I guess, if he wanted to maybe switch things 1 through 4 and then have Zubats out there just dropping cover, whatever kind of coverages he wants to run with him. That would be the one area. Although if I were running I'd say Terrence Mann should probably take it, honestly.
But see, that would mean Kawhi Leonard playing the 4, and then there's resistance there potentially.
See, but if that's a Kawhi thing, right? Like if Kawhi doesn't want to play the 4 full time, then like I get it. Like KJ is a decent option to then throw in there, if Kawhi is not amenable to that idea of playing the 4 full time.
Well, the way you're selling him right now, it sounds like exactly what we need. Some athleticism, somebody that can get some dirty work points. Just need more spring, because the Clippers are very old, and last couple of seasons, pretty slow. But coming up, we talked about the defense. Let's hear about KJ Martin offensively and what we could expect there. Going to be talking about that coming up. All right, to close out KJ Martin, there was one game this season that I went to where he lit us up, and he just happened to make every 3 he took. Now, I'm not expecting any of that. Obviously, that clearly, based on the percentages, ended up being kind of a fluky game. He shot 31.5% from 3 this season. A career high, though, 13 points a game and 5.5 rebounds. So to see him average double-figure points is a great sign. What can we expect from him offensively? You said he's improved putting the ball on the floor and attacking closeouts, but the defense is smart. They shouldn't close out too hard. What's his ceiling, you think, as an offensive player? Obviously, you said a role player, but what can that look like, you think?
The really weird thing with KJ is he's had some stretches, even though you look at like the blanket percentage for the past couple of years, shooting the ball from distance. He had, like, for example, 2 years ago, he actually finished his post All-Star break splits for shooting the 3 ball. I want to make sure I got this right. He shot 42% from 3 post All-Star break 2 seasons ago. So, and that's like a decent sample size, like, a third of the season where he managed to shoot 42%. I remember Rockets fans were so like excited because it's like, oh my God, he's got a heater. Like he can actually shoot now. This is insane. I don't think he's ever going to be like a knockdown 3-point shooter. And I do think that at times he was forcing too many threes here on the Rockets. I think that in a perfect world, he is getting easier threes, not necessarily threes above the break. It really felt like when he was shooting from the corners, he was a little bit more effective, but he didn't get many. And this is purely eye test. I could be completely wrong here. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers to back me up. It just felt like when he did get corner threes, he was a little bit more comfortable taking those. Those are, a shorter 3 shot. And those are some of where you see some like 3-point specialists, right? Guys who thrive on hitting those corner threes as opposed to the above the break threes or the top of the 3 keys or top of the key threes. Wow, it's a good thing I don't talk for a
living. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
It's a tongue twister. You know what? Locked on Clippers listeners, you guys try saying that 5 times fast, okay? Anyways, no, so I do think there's a world where he can be a better 3-point shot. In my book, I always kind of chalked it up to, look, if KJ can get to like 34, 35% from 3, that's enough to where he's respectable, to where it'll still open up the rest of his game to where he then has those opportunities to get inside, to attack, to drive, to cut, all those little things that he can do. and really be effective inside. And I did mention a couple of different times, right? His ability to put the ball on the floor has gotten a lot better to the point where even, if a defender starts kind of closing out on him, he's got more comfortable with his first step, and he's got that insane athleticism where once he's got like his shoulders past you and is able to just kind of shield off the defender and get towards the rim, he's got this insane touch with oddly like both hands around the rim. He does this like kind of teardrop looking shot, but he gets up so high in the air, Darian. It's like he's dropping the ball in the hoop. Like it's like he's playing on it's basically like he's playing on a Nerf basket.
You're making him sound like Dr. J right now.
Dude, I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Is like, wait until you see it actually happen. It's kind of funny to watch because you're just like, dude, like it. Sometimes when you watch KJ jump, it's like he's levitating in midair, like legitimately. Like he has to be like a top 5, at minimum top 10, like leaper, jumper, high flyer in the entire NBA. So when he does get to the interior on a drive, he's got that soft touch. He doesn't just have to get all the way to the rim and like power up for a dunk or for a clean layup. Like he's got that teardrop with a little bit of touch on it that started to work really well for him, that he's also been able to utilize. Like I talked about some of the putback opportunities that he would get. He was able to like get some of those putbacks. And if he's not able to like immediately power back up, which he does have a very quick second jump as well, which also helps him on the defensive end, because sometimes he'll bite on a pump fake, but then he's already back up in the air with the second, with the springiness. So, offensively, I just think he has a lot of touch and not necessarily a lot of craft around the basket. Like he doesn't have like a insane like layup package or anything. He's just really effective around the rim once he can get there. So I do think that he has an ability to make an impact offensively. He's just not a guy that you need to like, you don't want to have to rely on him for offense. If you're relying on him for like 12, 15 points a night, that's where you're going to kind of be a little bit disappointed, which is again, very kind of similar to like Aaron Gordon, right? When he was in Orlando and they had to rely on him as like a number 1, number 2 option, it was kind of disappointing when he had nights where he couldn't really produce, but then he goes to Denver. He's got 3 different guys in Jokic, Murray, and MPJ ahead of him in the offensive pecking order. And now it's like, okay, well, whatever you get from Aaron Gordon is just gravy. Like that's incredible. If he's going to give you 15 and 12, then like you're totally stoked with that. That's what KJ can provide. The rebounding is a big thing for him. Because he just out jumps and outworks a lot of other guys. He'll snag rebounds that he has no business getting on either end of the floor just because he's jumping that much higher than everybody else.
Wow, that's amazing. I was gonna ask, but that's amazing to hear about the finishing. I didn't know any of that, the soft touch around the rim and all that. My last question about his offense is, so like in today's NBA, a lot of the role players, if they're not 3 and layup guys, they don't really get even asked to shoot other shots. And because his 3 ball is not that great, my question is, does he just not really have a jumper at the NBA level as of now?
No, like he is not a guy that's going to pull up like from mid range. He's really not going to shoot the ball anywhere. In fact, like he doesn't have like even his 3 ball is a little weird. Like he's got like, it's not like a hitch. It's like a low kind of gather. And it's very much like a set shot. Like he's like, he almost looks like one of those like robotic machine. Like when you see like the robots that shoot the threes, like that's kind of what he looks like. It's not like a broken shot. And again, he does hit them with some regularity, again, not as much as you would like to see. But he'll go through like stretches, right? He'll go through stretches for like a few weeks or a month where he's like shooting like decent, or have like a game or 2 where he shoots, really respectable. And then what tanks his percentages is he'll have, a couple games here and there where he'll go 0 of 1, 1 of 3, 1 of 4, like those kind of games where he just doesn't get like a large volume of threes. And then that just overall kind of tanks his percentage at the end of the day. The other thing that I didn't get a chance to highlight though with him offensively, I did talk about, right, his ability to put the ball on the deck. The thing that really surprised me this past season was how much better he got as a secondary, I won't say secondary creator, just making the right extra pass at times. And so the big one though was the swing pass, or like the skip pass to the opposite corner when he would drive. So like he would start putting the ball on the deck, he would drive it all the way to the rim, and he would attract like the low man, right? And get that second defender over. And then he would swing the pass to the opposite corner. And it was like, he just started doing it this season. And the first time I saw him do it, my jaw dropped. I was like, what? Like KJ is going to swing it to the opposite corner for a wide open 3? That's new. And then he did it like again. And I was like, oh, it's not a fluke. This is like a thing that he can do now. So like that coupled with just kind of the decision making, right? Like, not taking, passing on a good shot for a great shot, right? Recognizing, okay, I have this shot, but just, I guess, overall that like slightly better court awareness. And maybe that just comes with being a little bit older, the game kind of slowing down for him going into what was year 3 for him. Now it'll be year 4 next season with the Clippers. So, I think there's a lot of optimism for, him to be a successful offensive guy on this Clippers team.
Well, that was some really great stuff. You've gotten me very excited to watch him play now, and I think you'll have a lot of Clipper fans after listening to this excited as well.
He's a fun player, man. Look, I'm going to say Clipperland is going to enjoy him because he is a highlight reel waiting to happen every single second that he is on the court. Like, you do not, my biggest thing, do not look away from the screen when KJ Martin is on the court, especially in transition, be it transition defense or transition offense, because you could get an insane, like, I'm talking Showtime Lakers, like highlight level, dunk package out of him offensively.
Lob City Clippers, baby.
There you go, now. Right? Lob City. It's Lob City Clips are coming back with KJ Martin. He's going to revitalize Lob City all by himself. No. And then defensively, right? Again, you'll see some insane shot blocking from him, some great contests at the rim. He did a pretty good job again this past season of like staying vertical on his contest, just using his body, getting his arms up and down. When he jumps, man, his head is at the rim. Like, it's crazy. So
I'm excited. It sounds like a very different player than his father, but we'll see if he has as good of a career. And now that's going to be with the LA Clippers. Jackson, this was great. Let everybody know where they can find you, because this was very thorough. You can clearly tell KJ Martin maybe as well as anybody.
Yeah, you guys can track me down on Twitter at JT Gatlin. Are we plugging Threads yet on this show?
You can.
Yeah, sure. Just track me down on Twitter at JT Gatlin. Of course, I do the Locked on Rockets pod 5 days a week, just like Daria does Locked on Clippers. I'm also the Monday Locked on NBA host with the 3 biggest stories from around the NBA landscape to get your week started off right. So check me out wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thank you so much. Locked on Clippers listeners, you already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button at Locked on Rockets, but also Locked on Clippers. If you haven't, hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. And let me know everything you know about KJ Martin. Go Clippers.